Hey guys, Diane here, and today we're going to be doing a spoiler-free review of Chuck Wendig's The Book of Accidents, so stick around and we'll get to it. Okay, so for a quick synopsis of The Book of Accidents, this book I actually didn't read the back of the book. I had kind of heard about it on like BookTube, Book Talk, things like that, but I never really knew a whole lot about it. And then when I was going through like the Bram Stoker Award nominees, I saw it on there. So I was like, you know what? I've been hearing a lot about this book. It's, nominated for, it didn't win, but it was nominated, for the Bram Stoker Award. So I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and read it. But for a quick synopsis, it's about a family of three. So we have Nathan, the dad. He's a cop. We have Maddie. She's an artist, and we have Ollie, who's 15 and he's in high school. So they end up moving out to rural Pennsylvania, and this is where Nathan's originally from. This is like his family home, and he actually has a pretty traumatic childhood, but which he's never really shared with his current family because I don't think he wanted to allow like his trauma and the toxicity of his family life bleed into the family life that him and Maddie have created with Oliver. So they move out to the beautiful house, and everything's going relatively fine. And things start to kind of go downhill fairly quickly. It's very not necessarily slow, but it happens gradually. So there are some really creepy parts in the book that it happens pretty gradually, and you're kind of seeing things, so something's off, but you don't really know what it is. And if the Book of Accidents is like a perfect title for this book, because everything does seem very accidental at first, and you're not really sure why you're being introduced to certain characters, why you're even hearing about some of these things. But, as the book goes along, it does a really good job of piecing it together. And there's also like this creepy tunnel, which is like my favorite part of the book, obviously. So it's this creepy like coal mine, and there's some really odd things going on down there. There's, kind of folklore that you definitely don't want to go down there at dark, or so it just kind of goes from there, and you come to find out, how strong the family bond is, and you see them kind of holding on to each other to get through this. Okay, so this book is about 500 pages. I read it, I listened to it on Audible, which I think helped with the pacing of the book, because I feel like if I was reading like an actual physical copy, I would have maybe got lost in the timelines and how many, not necessarily how many characters there are, but there are different timelines, so that may have been a little confusing. Whereas on Audible, the voices are changing, and you can kind of figure out who's talking by the voices. I mean, yeah. So I feel like if I were to have read a physical copy, I don't know if I would have enjoyed it as much as if I was listening to it. I mean, it was really well written, and I'll read, I would read another Chuck Wendig book. I don't know if I know that Wanderers is super popular. A lot of people like it, but I don't know what that's about. I don't know a whole lot about that book other than it's supposed to be good. But his writing style is really good. I could see why it would be nominated for the Bram Stoker Award, just because it flowed really well. And I felt like the way he described people, the way he described like the relationship was really, or their relationship with each other was really kind of poetic, and it flowed really well. So it was a little long. There were some parts where I was kind of like, okay, I might speed it up a little bit. But I mean, that's with any book. I feel like if any book's over 300 pages, there's probably something in there that you could cut out. Even with some of my like most favorite books that are like, say, like 700-800 pages, there's literally like chapters that I was like, okay, you could have skipped that. But I mean, that's getting off subject. So anyways, but I do feel like it was it was long, but it wasn't uncomfortably long, and I actually kind of felt like the ending was a little rushed, just a tiny bit rushed, where I felt like there was so much buildup because this is a longer book, so I felt like there was a lot of buildup, and it was kind of wrapped up really fast. But no, so it was. I mean, it was good. I liked it. I really enjoyed it. Okay, so as far as the characters go, there's really just, I mean, there's quite a few characters, but as far as like the main characters, like Nathan the dad, Maddie the mom, and Oliver. Oliver was super likable. I mean, I have a son that's, I not like Oliver. Oliver's very like empathetic. He's super sensitive to everybody. He's like super sweet, and that just kind of reminded me of my son because he's like that. He's very sensitive. He's super. He's just. Anyway, we're not talking about my son, but it really kind of, I guess that kind of linked me to Oliver just because he was so sweet. He's always worried about other people. He's worried about world hunger. He's worried about, which obviously we all should be worried about it, but to the extent that he worries about it to where he's like, really want to help these people. So Oliver was definitely one of my favorite characters. The mom and the dad, I liked, they were good characters. Nathan, he was likable. He was kind of rough around the edges. He's a cop, so that kind of comes with the territory being a little rough around the edges. And Maddie, she was a good mom. She was devoted to her family, but she also was an artist, and she also was able to express herself that way. So that was kind of fun to see, and yeah. So I feel like the character development was really good. Okay, so as far as twists go, I wouldn't really say that there were like a whole lot of twists. Like I said, it is a book of accidents. So you kind of see things culminating and kind of coming together. The book, I feel like, moves pretty seamlessly to where you're like, oh, okay, that ties in there, that ties in there, and it really makes more sense, like I said, the further you go. But I don't really necessarily remember a whole lot of like twisty, turny spots where I guess it's more like an aha moment, like, oh, aha, okay, yeah, that makes more sense now. But I wouldn't necessarily say like, oh my gosh, I'm so surprised. So it moved, like I said, it moved pretty seamless, and I felt like it was more of like just coming together and being more of a moving story, as like a moving timeline, I guess, is kind of how I felt. Okay, so finally, I really enjoyed this book. I enjoyed the way everything seemed accidental, but the way it all came together and it all made sense. So I really loved that aspect of the book. As far as who I would recommend this to, there's some pretty like dark subject matter. It gets pretty like gross. So, I mean, but I feel it's made more for like the general public, I guess you would say. Like, I would recommend this to pretty much anybody that's looking to get into horror or that enjoys like a thriller, because it's not basic. It is different. So if you've either getting into horror, or if you are used to like some of the tropes, I think it does do some new things. So recommend it. I mean, obviously, if you're into horror, if you're into like thriller, things like that, you probably are already semi know what you're getting yourself into as far as like trigger warnings, things like that. So if you're not comfortable with that, I don't know why you'd be reading horror necessarily, but who knows. So, but no, I would probably recommend it to really anybody. I enjoyed it. I thought that it had good characters. I thought they came together well. I thought that everything moved pretty quickly. Like I said, there were some down parts, but in a book that's like 500 pages, like that's gonna happen. It is what it is. So, as far as the rating, I think I would probably give this like a 7.5 out of 10, just because I enjoyed it. I really liked it. Is this something that I'm gonna think about? That I'm gonna really go over again and again in my head. Not really. I did enjoy it. It was a fun read. Well, not necessarily fun. I enjoyed it and I liked it. I like where the book took you, but it's not going to be like on my top list of 2022. It's, it was a good read. I'll read another Chuck Wendig book, but as far as like my favorites, probably not like necessarily one of my favorites, but it was good and I did enjoy it. And I would recommend it if you know, are into, longer books. And I mean, it was a good story, but yeah, so if you like that book, just let me know. If you didn't like that book, let me know in the comments, and please like and subscribe, and we'll see you later.